Rockman and Forte, Challenger from the Future, may be one of the most bizarre titles in the classic line of Mega Man games, not necessarily due to the game coming out for the tiny titan that was the Bandai WonderSwan, exclusively released for Japanese markets, or the fact that this was essentially outsourced by Capcom, but more so because there's so little information out there about it. We have made a few discoveries over the years which sheds a bit more light on the project as a whole, yet the way the lore came to fruition is still very much a mystery to the vast majority, thus making this mysterious challenger from the future even more captivating. A character who makes for an interesting topic point of discussion when speculating on his series impact. So after 2 playthroughs of Mega Man and Bass, preceded by 2 playthroughs of Challenger from the Future, I think I want to theorize here and now where this story ultimately fits into the classic timeline today, while placing my wicked dialogue on these events. For those who have stuck with me up until now, you know I have a strong appreciation for this little dude right here. So the fact there was another story centered around this tiny green machine blew my mind. Who knew he would go on to inspire the creation of one Rockman Shadow? Is he even a shadow though? I mean, the game itself indicates so, but apparently the marketing team never got the memo. Well, that's a bummer. Well, from what I've read, the fanbase has essentially accepted this green color scheme. We'll get into more of the lore bits in due time, but the important thing here is this game's significance. No matter what Capcom wants to say about continuity here, this in my opinion is an official sequel to Mega Man and Bass. No one twisted your arm to outsource development just like you did with Quint's story, so you can't just pick and choose who you want to scrap along the way, just because they don't live up to your standards. So again, what drew me to this game initially was how this particular story tied back to him, a character I was pretty obsessed with due to Mega Man 2 being one of my first handheld games. Well, apparently I wasn't the only one here that appreciated this little fella, as he seems to only have grown in popularity over the years, so all I can say is someone over at Layup was a fan. You know, the team banished to the Shadow Realm for their crimes against Capcom. I'll say right now, this was no layup, it was more so a slam dunk, much like the 16-bit original for the Super Famicom, which ironically also received a bad rap. So before passing judgment, I'll say right now, these visuals do not do this game justice, so you just gotta dive in without looking back. Well, I think we've stalled long enough here. I think it's time to get to the bottom of this mysterious challenger from the future, wouldn't you say? As we now explore the next chapter of our favorite Blue Bomber story. Welcome to Symphony City, a little-known place residing in the foreseeable future where humans and robots live in harmony amongst each other. That is until something unexpected occurred that would disrupt the very fabric of space and time. The day the Dimensions arrived, a band of exceptional robot masters with advanced fighting capabilities reprogrammed to cause chaos and destruction, which shockingly aren't designed by Dr. Wily. At their core lies their leader, one who takes the form of this world's greatest champion, the Blue Bomber himself, a dark embodiment of our hero, hell-bent on destruction, whom has crash-landed onto this plane in search of his youthful double. With all eyes on these events, our 2 scientists dispatch their newly formed tag team into the center of the chaos to search out this wicked new doppelganger. With our heroes now reunited, Bass confronts Mega Man, whom was anticipating a rematch with his old neighborhood rival, only to be shocked by the discovery of our dimensional dilemma. With bigger matters to attend to, the 2 call a temporary truce as they now look to uncover the secrets of this newly surfaced mystery man. As events open up, our duo races off deep inside the underground caverns of Symphony City, where they're met with a well-crafted assortment of this Shadow Rockman's forces. New and old infantry bots alike now stationed across these underground ruins, anticipating our hero's next move. A base of operations built from the inspiration of their timeline's dark mentor. Paths carved out with unique trials specifically designed around our hero's attributes, which must be tackled through a pairing of this dynamic offense. Our faithful Blue Bomber accomplishes these feats through a classic blend of heroics, incorporating in that well-oiled charge shot, sliding in style across the withered rubble to gain the upper hand on those twisted dimensions. Bass, on the other hand, will make it look easy, brushing off those problematic pests with some advanced shooting mechanics, dashing along each platform with that added pep in his step to reach those sought-after platforms. That sweet double jump just makes it feel as if I'm playing the X series, and the quicker you master these physics, the quicker you reach the center of this cavern, where our dream team will encounter the first of our shadow dimensions, now making his gargantuan presence be known. This dimension looks very similar to a long line of devils, one whom perhaps has been modified through our new villain's own reverse engineering. The new Great Devil is a first for the series, one just gushing at the gills to tackle you, now releasing a spread of sticky projectiles into the cavern, looking to poison our duo with his gnarly toxins. He can easily overwhelm you due to the range and spread of these goo-jectiles, and the speed in which you need to shake them off can cause you to easily be steamrolled. While on the subject here of the Grey Devil, is he simply grey due to the specs of the handheld visuals? Because clearly there was some confusion. If you can remain close enough to him during each loop, it's far easier to avoid these sticky capsules, allowing you to deal enough damage to outlast his onslaught. As our duo looks to get some much needed answers to this mysterious man in question, they quickly find what they're looking for, running into this mega impersonator whom doesn't seem surprised the slightest that our team bested his dimension. Locking eyes with our blue bomber, it's well apparent the resemblance to Mega Man here is uncanny, as if our hero is staring back at a ghost from the past. As they become acquainted, the impersonator gets called for questions. However, enraged by the wreckage of his underground refuge, he's reluctant to shed any light on the matter, insisting they overcome his dimensions to find their answers. Interestingly enough, he does have an interesting exchange with Base, alluding to a common bond the two may share through an unlikely brotherhood, now stressing that perhaps the two have more in common than they realize. A link to Wily, perhaps? Well, before we can dive in further, he whisks off, leaving you to deal with a city currently under siege. Similar to our Super Famicom release, you're going on another scavenger hunt to track down those dimensional boys, allowing you to choose one of the next 4 in any order you choose, until eventually opening up a path to the remaining 2. Auto Shop returns with some well-needed essentials, along with a few special guest stars that makes this the ultimate one-stop hobby shop. Tango and Reggae was an awesome surprise to see here, bringing the whole gang together for this final farewell tour. I mean, to be fair, this would be the last classic entry we would receive for quite some time, so their inclusion here feels that much more special to me. There's only one drawback here, is outside your primary upgrades, everything on sale is a one-time use item, including your assist characters, which painfully cost your weight in bolts. Hey, remember when you would get those sweet rush adapters through hard work, and I don't know, triumphing over those killer robot masters? Well, that's been thrown out the window for a while now, because the mighty dollar, or mighty bolt speaks. Still though, I love the fact that we have the entire squad together here, and it just makes the little accomplishments feel far more rewarding. Things will begin to heat up the moment you enter Conro Man stage, a throwback to those hardcore platforming stages of Mega Man's early years. A stage theme that focuses far less on the Robot Master's central themes and more on your experience as a platforming artist. Hey listen, I pulled that one straight out of my ass, but you still got a slim margin of error requiring you to perform those death-defying leaps of faith across some wicked platforming segments. Just when you assume you're in control of your destiny, reality will set in, because this game will bend you over backwards for a painful fisting. Although a pint-sized entry in the grand scheme here, this still manages to deliver those over-the-top moments the Mega Man series is known for, right down to the very boss battles, as we find our latest dimension pouring more fuel on this fire, causing the heat to rise just for this occasion, as the flames set in to torch our duo to a crisp. Next we got Dongan Man. Well, he's a peculiar design. The War General of the Dimensions, whom I'm sure puts his massive missile to good use. He apparently has a stronghold on Symphony City's weapons factory to aid his leader into a new era. Apparently the testing site has been running some drills as of late, because the structure looks as if it won't hold together much longer, as the farther you venture through, the more the steel structure begins to crash down atop you. So keep one eye peeled on your target while the other to the ceiling, that way you don't get mistaken for one of those piles of scrap metal. There appears to be some familiar weaponry on display, Perhaps a test model that would find its way into the X series. Just some food for thought though. Who knows, maybe these dimensions traveled much farther into the future than we realize. Once you catch up with Donganman, he'll let it be known he's excited to meet you, launching an assortment of synchronized strikes into the crash site in hopes to catch our heroes off guard, at least long enough to charge up that nuclear warhead of his for a speedy test launch towards our blue bomber. As he hovers back and forth, lighting up the skies, he continues to spool up for another strike, climbing inside his speedy bullet full steam ahead as he looks to penetrate the opposition. Okay, look, I just can't with this dude. Let's just move forward here. The outskirts of Symphony City has quickly become roboticized by the presence of these killer dimensions, now a forest of henchmen that do their bidding. You will be required to put those thumbs to good use, to clear a path throughout, watching our woodland friends closely due to their unorthodox movements. The musical melodies across Challenger from the Future offers a well-balanced blend of 8-bit remixes of those beautifully composed Super Famicom tracks, making this a real bop the whole way through. Kamuso Man is by far the most deadly of the dimensions, so much so, the dude will have you battle tested for whatever comes your way. I'm serious folks, his shadow clones are lightning quick, whom assemble with a triangle offense that is damn near impossible to overcome unless you memorize their attack patterns down to the very frame. In time, he will create a large hailstorm that spreads like a forest fire, shielding any offense you stir up. So take your time and proceed with caution here, because this is going to be your greatest challenge to date. Dare I say, the real challenger from the future? One of the most impressive stages this package has to offer has to be Aircon Man stage. This journey will require you to utilize the WonderSwan's hardware to its fullest, turning it on its side for a far more dynamic playstyle that incorporates the system's additional control schemes. This stage has some festive enemy designs and beautifully sculpted play mechanics that shouldn't go without mention. Where this entry may lack in graphical fidelity, it makes up for in creativity, giving the player a far richer experience that brings these worlds to life. You find yourself interacting with various enemies and set pieces that require a little additional strategy to overcome. Everything feels more involved with a hands-on approach, just like the quirky themes of our dimensions. One in particular, whom at a moment in time was merely a plain old household fan, now has been reinvented as a weapon of destruction, utilizing those massive fan blades to whip up a whirlwind of debris, causing even the local inhabitants to hang on for dear life as objects fly in from all angles. So take your time so you don't get impaled here, climbing across those massive rock formations, now hurling towards you to get a few shots off. Upon taking out the latest batch of dimensions, our duo will link up with Proto Man momentarily, whom has managed to dig up a little dirt on this mystery man. We discover this dark doppelganger, who mirrors Mega Man, is in fact just that, described by Proto Man as Mega Man's shadow, which grows in power with each of our blue bombers' victories, alluding to the fact that his very essence is linked to that of our heroes. This is an eye-opener for Base, who must come to terms with the fact that Mega Man is essentially undeniable, as if his old rival had always been the chosen one from the beginning. Man, talk about having a Vegeta enlightenment moment. There's something quite unique about this journey that somewhat plays into this farther. As you move ahead with our heroes, you'll find that they both utilize the Dimension's powers quite differently, granting both a unique variation on their newly adopted enemy skills, which brings a whole new aspect to each of their playthroughs. Just a fun little detail to mention. So with that in mind, it's time to take a trip back to the future as our clockmen patiently wait to reset your clock, taking to the surrounding battle arena with some swift dive kicks, finding our dimensional twinsies reuniting atop the center of this stage for some tag team maneuvers. Although not the most difficult enemies to dissect, they're one of my absolute favorite design choices. Even as Mega Man, I had very little issues evading this tag team. However, just don't leave the door open for these dimensional disturbers, or you'll find yourself on the opposing end of the punishment. As the dust settles, it's time to pursue our mystery man. However, before you do, another mysterious presence draws near, whom just so happens to be the Dimension's first in command, whom has teleported into the battlefield to halt your advances. He challenges our duo here and now, claiming this ends tonight. Interestingly enough, Compass Man is the only dimension whom isn't shown across the story cutscenes. Our antagonist's right-hand man, whom operates behind the scenes to see business through. You're going to have your work cut out for you here. This is the boss man's last line of defense, requiring you to master his best reserves to see your way to victory. When that moment presents itself, be ready, as our fearless number 2 will separate into 2 opposing offenses. His upper half is completely bulletproof to attacks, allowing Compass Man to speed up his razor-sharp appendages to slice you to bits. He does, however, have one fatal design flaw, located at the point of connection, where his 2 halves reunite. So, get enough clearance on him and fire away, targeting the upper hatch sticking out of his torso to sever his connection. With a few good passes, he will raise his flag in defeat, going down swinging for his boss man. With Compass Man out of commission, our shadowy figure proceeds to reveal himself, looking to drop some truth bombs on our duo. He proceeds to ask Mega Man if he recalls an incident where he battled a robot named Quint, a modified version of our hero from a peaceful future where Mega Man would get botnapped by Wily, transforming our little buddy into the infamous green machine we faced throughout our handheld adventures on the Game Boy. He continues on, explaining to our duo that in the future, Wily didn't give up his quest for world domination, and thus began working on his own Rockman, one that has now traveled back from that very time period to prevent robotics from advancing. So what I'm getting from this is that he believes he's a T-800 sent from the future to prevent Judgment Day, right? Which requires him to destroy all of Light's creations, for the betterment of mankind. These claims just don't pass the smell test, as we find he would manage to pull base away from Mega Man just long enough to try to convince him to join him on his conquest. Together, they could create a unified front, one that would not only defeat Mega Man and friends, but would also grant Base the unlimited power he so desperately seeks. I guess this dude didn't get the memo from Wily, because if anyone knows Base, he answers to nobody, opting out of this 2-man power trip and opting in for a Rock Band-sized ass whooping. Speaking of ass whoopings, can we just talk about these updated portraits of our dimensions? Comically showing the aftermath of the beatdowns they endured at the hands of our heroes. It's little shit like this that always gets the biggest pop out of me. In the next moments to pass, Rockman's shadow will retreat back to the center of his fortress where he prepares for a climactic showdown. The interior of this fortress is covered with a variety of tanky enemies positioned strategically to pick off any unwanted pests, so proceed with caution as they will need to be toppled with a timely execution. Surprisingly, this is the first time we are going into an endgame scenario without old Wily in attendance. That won't exactly stop his influence from impacting a good portion of this final stretch, as you're soon become greeted by what I assume to be a pint-sized Wily capsule, buried deep inside this evil lair. So consider this just that, pivoting back and forth across each platform to smear him across the ceiling, allowing you to find your way to the fortress center where our evil twin awaits. As our boys go to work battling Rockman's shadow, he will call forth a modified version of the Sakagura. It's the Quint weapon. Only instead of tearing the floorboards up beneath you, he will teleport in from above to bury you beneath the floorboards. You gotta stick and move if you want to overcome the assault, as he moves in with lightning speed to stir up more chaos, requiring you to not only veer clear of his attack, but have enough distance to avoid the after effects, because the moment you go in for an attack, you're most likely getting clipped by the flying debris, which can send you packing back for a speedy rematch. With enough back and forth exchanges, Rockman's shadow will show you his true power that Quint could have only dreamed of, as a stream of energy now begins to flow from his Buster Cannon, taking the form of a powerful saber as he attempts to carve you into pieces. He'll dash back and forth across the room for a combination of saber strikes. If you upgraded your armor beforehand, these attacks won't deal you too much damage, allowing you to stand your ground as a result. As the fight wages forth, the two Rockmen, or Mega Men, will continue to trade blows as they fight for the mantle of the Blue Bomber. As the two robots take one final shot towards one another, they erupt with an explosive exchange, and as the dust settled, only one would now stand tall. At the feet of Mega Man lied the toppled Rockman Shadow, whom has now suffered a wound so severe he cannot recover. In his final moments, he's able to correct the mistakes that have haunted him to this very day, granting him the much needed closure he's had pent up inside for many years. It's at this moment he reveals, while he wasn't present in his time, fleeing to the past with Quint to battle Mega Man, ultimately leaving Rockman Shadow abandoned and alone. Although made in Quint's image, he was merely a prototype, worked on temporarily until Wily had the opportunity to get a hold of the real Mega Man, and thus Rockman Shadow would be scrapped and put on the shelf. It was then that he would come to resent the world, seeking to modify his framework to the point he was an unstoppable force, ultimately becoming consumed by power due to the hand he was dealt. And as time crept forward, he continued to release that pain and frustration upon his world till no single entity could oppose him, which is what inevitably drove him to seek out Mega Man, someone who could not only match his power, but ease the pain he continued to carry with him. This was a powerful message and made for a pretty heartfelt story, touching on the ideas that with enough power, it could corrupt even the most purest of souls. With his dying breath, Mega Man assures Rockman Shadow he would keep this promise to strictly fight to protect this world and those he loves. A powerful message that would also resonate with Bass, who felt something inside him change that day. While battling back and forth with Rockman Shadow, a feeling of emptiness came over him. And in his final moments, Rockman Shadow proceeds to stress to Bass to not become like him, as seeking strength and power alone is no way for anyone to live. This, in my opinion, was the moment the Mega Man series crowned their next hero. In the aftermath, Mega Man and Bass have an exchange of words, as Bass still hypes himself up as the world's greatest warrior, but surprisingly now wishes to spare our blue bomber, while Mega Man calmly assures him he will always be here every step of the way whenever Bass steps out of line. As our heroes teleport away from the scene, the soul of Rockman Shadow can now be seen rising from his withered remains, manifesting into an energy sphere, and thus leaving us to theorize, perhaps, just perhaps, there is more to these robots than what meets the eye. Mega Man and Bass, a challenger from the future, in my opinion, is the farewell tour for the classic Mega Man fan. Although we would eventually reunite with the Blue Bomber years later, this felt like the closure we needed that put a bow on the entirety of the original series respectively. Where the Super Famicom Mega Man and Bass gave us that bridge to the X series, Challenger from the Future tied up the loose ends, bringing the handheld entries into the forefront, while giving the many characters we've met along our journey the closure they deserved. This was a delightful offering, which surprisingly had a good deal going for it. A handheld entry that made excellent use of the WonderSwan's hardware, adopting unique features of the WonderSwan, and bring fans of the Blue Bomber a dynamic playstyle along with a visual presentation that made this something entirely unique, further differentiating our heroes through their unique attributes while featuring advanced mechanics to further exemplify this. As niche as this little console is, what you ultimately have underneath the hood is something brand new. A new entry with a fun time travel story that focuses far less on the complexity of time and space and more on the story and lore. A title that not only validates each Mega Man entry from the classic series, but pays homage to future entries with unique enemy designs and a cast of dimensions that hail from a future that finds their quirky themes bringing something new to the table. The audio itself gave us some clever remixes of the original Mega Man and Bass, which is somewhat expected, seeing the same thing with the Rockman World games. This is very much my Rockman World 6, the same way I consider Mega Man and Bass my true Mega Man 9, a story that unites the console and handheld entries under one final adventure, bringing the entirety of the team together for one more go, while looking to put some much needed respect on the legacy of Quint. And you know what? It was well deserved too. And just like the fate of Rockman Shadow here, time heals all as we now make our way back to our favorite handheld system, because we have some unfinished business to attend to, as we now look to venture ahead into a whole new world, a Rockman world that is. Till next time gang, same rockin' time, same rockin' channel.